Hey everyone, Vince here. Hope you're all having a great day. Our first episode of the podcast is finally out. Well, actually, the first two, because we ended up talking for 3 hours. We underestimated how much we actually had to say about this topic, so we had to split up into two episodes. The first episode, which you're about to hear, is our takes on why is it so hard for men to talk about their feelings, as well as toxic masculinity. And then the second episode is more of like what our coping mechanisms are like and how we deal with stress and how we take care of ourselves. So hope you guys enjoy both episodes. Fair warning though, in the first episode there is a section where we talk about heavier topics, so there is a trigger warning before that section, so fair warning. But anyways, hope you guys enjoy our these two episodes, and hope you guys stay tuned for more. Thanks, have a good one, and take care of yourselves.
And just like a precursor, because this is our first podcast, like we'll probably keep minimal edits. Like I don't think we'll heavy edits.
No, we don't.
I don't know. I've been listening to a lot of, like, the one I've been listening to a lot is like David So's podcast, like the Genius Brain
Genius
podcast.
Brain,
Yeah, that was really fun to hear. He doesn't even have like an intro or anything, or sometimes he does. Like sometimes he does, but sometimes he just starts, like he's in the middle of the podcast, like, and he just starts when he wants to. Like, he'll be in mid conversation and the podcast just starts, like the video starts. I was like, oh shit. So
hey guys, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, the reason why I'm saying that because
dick is big.
I don't want to be like, hey guys, welcome to like my channel Booty Buster 69. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification.
Hell yeah,
bro. My picture for feed pics, like, you know, I don't want that. Like, I think we're not trying to capitalize or, like, you know, make it
No,
like
we're just vibing.
We're just vibing. Yeah, and that's what the message I want to put out is that it's just a listening experience, and you know,
yes sir,
we wanted to include participation, and also we just, you know, we thought that we would talk about this, and I think it's very important. Yeah.
Okay, well, let's see.
Introduce us?
Yeah, sure. Okay, wait. So let's first talk about like what this is. So basically, we thought it'd be a good idea to just like get together, talk about different topics. For example, today we're talking about mental health. Other topics like we're thinking of doing is like relationships, success, goal setting, coping with loss. So stuff that's like a little bit heavier, but we don't talk about in our circle of friends. So like we just want to encourage like these kind of conversations in like a group of friends, especially guys, because like especially like in our circle of guy friends, like we don't usually talk about this. We just usually meme on each other and like play Valorant, play games. It's really like very superficial, and I guess that's key to like building long lasting relationships and friendships too, is like you have to be able to be open with each other. So yeah, that's kind of like the goal of our podcast. Also, we're just vibing. We usually talk about this like off. I was about to say off stream, but we're not streaming. Like off podcast, I guess. But so
off air.
Okay.
Air Jordans.
So yeah, like we just wanted to share our experiences, and hopefully you guys can
off camera, guys. Off
camera. Okay.
Off camera.
All right.
Eat that.
Okay.
So like I don't know, we just wanted to share experiences so you guys can hopefully learn something, or just get an insight to what our lives are like, even though they're not really that interesting. But anyways, that's besides the point.
They can relate to it, you know what I mean?
They can relate to it, yeah.
Yeah, like we are okay. So I mean, as far as I understand, we're all three straight dudes. Like if you're exploring sexuality, like I don't want to out you, like that's cool. But like I feel like that's like a very common thing, is that the straight cis dude just doesn't talk about shit like this. So they kind of like dismiss it, and like I remember, and like I don't know if Ronald was there, but I know Vince was there, where like there was a guy who gave a speech about like talk about something that you're vulnerable with, right? And I was with Vince in a group, and literally like all of us were just cowards, and we could not talk about anything that bothered us, because we were just like, like who wants to go first? And we're all just like trying to force each other to like talk about it, but we physically couldn't, because like we're so primed and so used to like just sheltering it in. It's like it's not their problem, it's my problem. Exactly. And it would be very unmanly to me to share that, you know what I mean?
So, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. on that note, I guess we should let's do some introductions. In case people don't know who we are. So I guess Jason is in the top left for me, so you can go first, sir.
Oh shoot. Okay. Well, as uh, yeah. So as Vince said, my name is Jason. I'm just a Hispanic Canadian here in Canada. Oh wow. Who would have thought Canadian?
No,
in
no
Canada?
Would've
way,
thought.
bro.
Yeah, and like I'm kind of just like who am I? Who the fuck am I? I'm just a dude.
Shit, that's
Yeah, I'm
a
just
that's
dude.
a that's a whole other podcast episode, bro.
So that's a whole other
as
podcast.
a whole,
bro.
like who are so like for the most part, I spent a lot of my years growing up dancing, so I do consider myself a dancer and stuff. But recently in my life, I've been kind of exploring new hobbies, whether that's like streaming, esports, playing piano too, but trying to learn to play the piano, and just like
Cool.
and also trying to learn how to cook more recipes, so I'm not like dependent on like someone. Like I could do that myself. Yeah, so like just an everyday guy, like your typical dude. So yeah, that's me in the paragraph or so with horrible grammar. Yeah. Ronald, you want to go next?
All right, Ronald.
Yeah,
Go
I'll
next. Go
next.
next.
Go next. Go next.
I'm Ronald. Hey guys. I'm like a 23-year-old Filipino male from Canada. Like who am I? I think it's my upbringing is kind of the same as Jason's a lot. Like I was like a dancer for like a long time. I still am a dancer. So I think that kind of plays into like a lot of emotional vulnerability because dance in a sense does bring out emotional vulnerability. But yeah, like Jason, I've been getting into a lot of new hobbies. Like cooking is one big one, like cooking and baking. Like learning how to fucking bake cookies is actually the most fucking hardest thing I've ever tried to learn in my life. um and I don't know what other hobbies, man. Like strategy games, bro. Like holy, like
TFT.
TFT, man. That's my thing, man. Holy TFT and card games, man. But yeah, that's what I've been recently into. Cooking mostly, like, and trying to get fit. So like, if we're ever doing a fitness episode, bro.
Yes.
I've been doing that too.
Me
Working
too.
out in that summer, hot boy summer. I'm just kidding. No, I'm
Summer
gonna
boy.
baby. I'm gonna kill this show. Love you, Karen.
Hey, shout out Karen. Shout out Karen.
Let's go.
Shut up, Karen.
Doxter ready for episode 1. Let's go.
All right, is it my turn? I guess.
Yeah.
All right, how's it going, people? My name is Vince. I'm also a Filipino male. I'm 24, currently 24. Yeah, I grew up with these guys actually. I grew up with Ronald actually because we've known each other since grade 4. So yeah, unlike these guys, I am no longer a dancer, because I went to university for chem eng and now I'm working as a engineering training 9 to 5 job. Pretty fun. Would recommend 100%.
Microsoft Excel.
Microsoft Excel all day, bro. But it pays the bill, so I'm it's not too bad. But yeah, like these guys, COVID has kind of forced me to get into some new hobbies as well, like cooking and baking as these guys. Same with these guys. I've done a lot of hiking so far. Like these past few years, I've been hiking a lot. My legs are like tree trunks now. Not gonna lie, but
anacondas, bro.
but yeah, that's pretty fun. It's like also a coping mechanism to like go out in nature and like conquer a mountain. It's pretty empowering as well. So, but other than that, just chilling, playing Valorant, getting tilted. Molding. What else is new? So yeah, that's us. I'm pretty sure over the next like few episodes we'll have guests as well. If they've like fit the topic or they just want to chill out. But yeah, so this is our first episode, so apologies in advance if it's scuffed. We're still learning. Still learning this thing. So yeah, so first episode. We don't even know what we're gonna title this because it's like men's mental health. We kind of want to come up with a creative title. But yeah, that's the topic. Since June is Men's Health Month, and one of the like biggest men's health issues right now is mental health. So we just thought, want to focus on our own experiences and like what we learned from them, and as we said in the beginning, hopefully you guys can learn something or resonate with our experiences. Strong disclaimer though, we are not professional therapists or
No.
something like that. So like our we're not trying to give advice or whatever. We're just sharing our experiences in hopes of encouraging these types of reflections in other people and these types of conversations in your guys' group of friends. So yeah, I guess let's get started.
Yeah, and
Sorry.
before we start, I just want to
Yeah.
put a side note is it's like almost like when you read a book or listen to a podcast, like usually it's not someone who's like an expertise in anything.
Yeah,
It just usually like when you hear other people's experiences, sometimes it helps you make sense of things. So like hopefully something
true.
that we tell will like resonate with you and hopefully like help you cope and like, help you like rewire problem solve in your head. Because
Mhm.
I feel like reflection has been a big thing.
Yes.
That's been helping all of us really just like cope with a lot of like shit that's going through right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, but
Mhm. Oh, also, before we start the podcast, on like seeking professional help, if you do think that professional help will help you and you have thought about it, go to it. I think I'm like a big advocate of like, if you need professional help, actually go seek it, because I've done it a couple times myself before, and it's really helped me in my long-term emotional health. So again, we're not professionals. We're here to help you realize a lot of things you didn't realize before. And again, go seek professional help if you need it.
Yeah.
100%.
I would recommend. It does help. And like I feel like a lot of people like have this misconception where like, oh, it's fine. I have my friends or I have Animal Crossing, but trust me, having a specialist that's really like helpful with like understanding your thoughts and like helping you cope with things and self-regulate is very important. And yeah, so I highly recommend,
Yes,
of
yes,
course,
yes.
counselor or therapist, whatever you can afford, whatever it's accessible. Yeah,
Mhm.
we recommend.
True.
Anyway, Vince, sorry.
100%.
Continue, my
No
lord.
worries.
Go next, go next.
Go next. Okay, so we did what is it called? Put a question on our Instagrams, and we'll go over those at the end. The question and is kind of like what we're gonna start on is like, why is it so hard for men to talk about their feelings, especially to each other? Um, so we'll kind of like give you our thoughts, but first I had a response from someone where it's like, um, like we can see all the stats, blah blah blah, and stuff like that. Like giving stats like doesn't really help, but I feel like it helps to emphasize the magnitude of the issue.
Yeah.
So while like giving like these figures doesn't really do anything, like it kind of like helps to frame the issue. So I'll just give a couple of them. So according to the let me just put my nerd glasses on.
He's pushing up the glasses.
The anime like
The
wears
anime.
glasses and turns away. Wait, look here, make it reflect.
So there's three stats here that I found pretty interesting. So according to the World Health Organization report from 2018, in high income countries, 3 times as many men as women die by suicide. So a little more details on that. So the exact number is 3.56 times. So that's more than 2 times the amount of men that die by suicide than women.
Wow,
Um,
that's crazy.
Mental Health America, a community-based nonprofit, reference data suggests that more than 6 million men in the U.S. experience symptoms of depression each year, and more than 3 million experience an anxiety disorder. But even though like those are all true, like those are backed by data, men are, according to the National Institute of Mental Health, men are less likely than women to have received formal mental health support in the past year. So it's kind of like a concerning issue, right? Because let's relate this to like if you had the flu or whatever other sickness, like you would go seek like medical help. Most of us would
Mhm.
like to
Mhm.
say like, oh, okay, doctor, like, can you like recommend whatever medication or remedy to fix me?
Advil.
but for
Antibiotics, eat that.
but for mental health, it's just like not a lot of people or less people like seek out professional help, and men less likely than women. So it's just like, let's talk about it. Like, why do you guys think that is? Like, why is it hard for especially men, I guess, to acknowledge that, they're not at 100% all the time, or talk about their feelings? What do you guys think?
I guess I'll go first.
Yeah, you go.
Honestly, like, cause, and I hate to like just like already bring up the Instagram questions, but a lot of them have the same themes of just like the expectation that's placed on men.
Mhm.
Now, like, um, I think like heteronormative, like heteronormative like expectation is like a problem for both men and women, like queer folk, and like literally everyone. Like heteronormative is
Mhm.
has been such a problem, and like I think a lot of straight people just think that it's heteronormative is like what's supposed to be, and there's no issues with it, but like one of the one that really resonated with me, and like he didn't really finish his sentence, but the first part he was saying how men are typically the breadwinners of like the family, right? And that's
Mm-hmm.
always been the thing, right?
Mhm.
So like I want to kind of go back to like Vince's like where he works like 9 to 5 stuff, right? Or
Mhm.
I just know there's been someone that's probably told you that like, hey, you should be grateful that you're working your 9 to 5 job, right?
Yeah.
And I've seen that again, like to a friend of ours. I don't want to say his name because I'm gonna turn to the doxing him, but basically he made a tweet saying like so he like lifts stuff. Like I think he lifts like he works in a warehouse and he works like 10-hour shifts, right? And like he like made a tweet saying like, oh, like dude, like I want to take a break. I wanna play Smash, I wanna play video games, I wanna take a break, right? And a lot of people were commenting saying like, like, oh, like it's a pandemic, like at least you have a job stuff, right? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, dude, like you don't understand, like, yes, like I understand, like it sucks when someone doesn't have like basic needs, but it's like you have like you really have no sense of empathy to really dismiss that because it's just like, oh, the expectation. And like I feel like if like I don't know, if a woman made that tweet, like it might have been a different story. Like I
Mhm.
don't know, like I maybe it might be the same. Like, oh, at least you have a job, because I'm pretty sure like that situation would have happened. But like
Yeah.
it kind of sucks because like um I'm and like not to like it's this is not to make fun of him, but I noticed he was gaining weight. Like he was feeling really down when I was around him. Like he didn't feel like 100%. He's feeling well right now. He's like doing okay, but it's like no amount of money you can pay in the world can fix what someone's feeling. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
obviously
Yeah.
money can help with like therapy and like counseling and stuff. But like there was like this one statistic I learned in like one of my psych classes, how like like how the whole like the money correlates to like happiness and stuff. So
Mhm.
they were saying how like and correlation doesn't mean causation, so it doesn't mean like money makes you happy, right? It just means that the amount of happiness, like the quality of happiness that they measured on a survey, and then like the amount of money increase, and it stopped around at like 60, 70K. And the rationale, like the implication was because like anyone below like that 60, 70K stuff, like wasn't meeting their basic needs, right? So the
Mm-hmm.
people
Mhm.
above
Mhm.
would meet their basic needs, plus be able to do recreational activities, like like just like have for therapy, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
And so like, and like especially living in a Western culture where and I feel like maybe even in Japan, because I know Japan has a problem with overworking too, right? Where like capitalization is such a ideal, it's idolized, right? That
Yeah. Yeah.
get that rich money. And especially because like men are the breadwinners, right? The expectation falls on them to get rich so that they can provide, right? And it's
Yep.
like it sucks because like um and it sucks for both like men and women because like literally like
Mhm.
it first of all puts lots of hats on women that like, oh, your job is not to get the money, that's the man job. You're there to mother him, his emotional needs, cooking, cleaning, and stuff. And then the man is there all alone, like keyword, he's
Mhm.
alone, like he doesn't really have anyone to like talk to and relate to, right? Because like I understand everyone trying to catch that bag and like get the hustle,
Mhm.
the grind, but that expectation that like we need to provide financially. Like I remember seeing this like one like TikTok, and like at first I kind of like I kind of agree with it, but then like when I started to think about it, it kind of upset me. But it was like this one Asian girl who like talked really fast, and she was saying how like um like she was like talking about that, and she was like angry, like I don't care who you are. If you ask me on, any dude ask me a date, I'm not fucking paying. I'm not fucking paying for the you're paying, right? Like, like okay, and like I think you might know who I'm talking about, right? And like at first I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Like women have many hats. Like they cook, they clean. A lot of immigrant women who are the eldest daughter, even if they're the middle child, ends up doing a lot of things that the other brothers like don't do,
Mhm.
right? And like they're already a mother at such a young age, and so like to me, I was like, that makes fair. Like that makes that does make sense, right? But like a lot of men I've met have so much anxiety with money, including myself. Like that's such a
Yeah,
such a like such a
100%.
thing.
Mhm.
Financial stress, and it's weird because like when I talk to my some of my women friends or like even some of my queer friends, like they stress about money because money is important to run in this like kind of society,
Mhm.
but they don't really it doesn't stress them as much as like I would say myself. Like it's almost like it's crazy, right? And so my opinion is that like whoever decides to ask someone on a date, like you know what I mean, like if you're like I want to take you out, right? Then
Mhm.
you're offering to take them out, right? But to put that expectation, you know what I mean? I feel like that's like a micro thing
Mhm.
that really like kind of push that heteronormative like norm that like men should pay for everything,
Yeah,
right? Including
yeah.
his in. And I understand, like, you're as the man, you're supposed to court the woman, right? And to me, I didn't see it as a problem because I was like, oh yeah, like, like
The
women
bet.
go through so much, right? So like it's only fair that like I kind of ease it off, right? And this is not to say like um don't don't treat your girl right or you know what I mean? Like obviously treat your partner right. But
Yeah.
I think one thing that
True.
really helped me is that like my current partner, Karen, she's really been keen on not letting me pay for things. Like she will fight me sometimes. And like I appreciate that because like, I feel like usually like most men like expect their partner to be like that submissive person, right? That just like does everything they say, right?
Yeah.
But I
Mhm.
really appreciate when Karen fights me, like the stereotypical Karen aspirin manager, like she like
Karen,
she
can
she,
I
she
speak to
chooses
the
like,
manager?
yeah, no, and like I always tell her like I appreciate like I need you to fight me because I am literally my own demon and I'm in my own headspace and sometimes I need
Mhm.
to be challenged on like my heteronormative like
100%.
ideals, right? And like
Right.
and even like the littlest thing of
Right,
like
right.
paying for the first date, to me I think that should be changed. I think it should be whoever wants to take the person. If you're taking a person out, you should be paid for the first date. I don't think it should be automatically like the dude. Like imagine if like let's say I was a girl and Vince was a dude and we were into each other and I was like, hey Vince, you want to go on a date?
Mm.
And then we go there
Yes,
and then he
sir.
pays for it and then I fucking ghost him. Like you know how fucking scummy that would be? Like you know what I
Ah.
mean? Like like no halfway or anything. Like I think that's like that's just pretty fucked up, right? You know what I
Yep.
mean? So like um obviously if you're taking someone out, you're taking them out, you're treating them, of course. But like
Mhm.
I think this normative like of the breadwinner thing is like I think it really is one of the reasons why I think it's very hard for like men to talk their feelings because like it's so expected that challenging it they're met with so much resistance. Like, they're met
Yeah.
with so much resistance and like they um people are confused, like, like, oh, that doesn't make any sense. The dude always pays for this stuff and stuff like that. And money, I think, is one of them. So like that's kind of the point we wanted to like go full circle was like, I feel like, oh fuck, that mosquito, shit.
Yeah, smack it,
Basically
bro.
like the idea of hustle culture and the fact that like that's your job and that is like
Mhm.
what you're meant to do in life, right? And there was like another um story, and I know I'm talking for a while, but I just kind of want to get my point across.
Yeah.
But he like, and I've seen this like post on like my Facebook all the time, and it was like only women and kids get unconditional love, and a man gets love based on what he can provide. And
Oh.
I think like
Yeah.
at first I was like, whatever the fuck, I don't care, it's just like corny ass quote. But then I was like,
No,
you know
it
what,
yeah.
I constantly feel it all the time. Like
Yeah.
Karen's like,
Yeah.
it's okay, like you
100%.
don't have to pay for this, you don't have to like do this. But I'm just like, yeah, but like then I don't feel valid. I don't feel as worth as a partner and stuff.
Yeah.
So like and that really like hurts me. And it's so hard to challenge that because like I'm so convinced that that's what it is.
Mhm.
And so therefore I don't really need like I don't think it's deserving talking about, even though sometimes it is like I should be talking about this because that kind of mindset's like not okay.
Mhm.
And yeah, I just wanted to touch on a couple of things actually that you guys have said. So I guess like going back to like the breadwinner um like idea. I think like traditionally, yes, men have uh been seen as like the breadwinners of like the family structure or whatever, but they've also been seen as like a rock for like the family, right? So if anything happens, if there's like a disaster or whatever, traditionally, this is what I'm saying. Like you look to the man to see to for them to solve the problem, right? And any sign that like he's unwell or he's not strong enough to solve those problems or take his family through those issues is seen as like a weakness, where it's like, oh, like you're not capable of solving this for your family. You're not capable of providing. Like why did like your wife choose you or whatever, right? So that's a very traditional view of things.
Yeah, like
But
you're a beta male,
yeah, it's like
yeah.
like that very like alpha beta like mentality, right?
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
just like I feel like that um especially in our like group of friends is kind of like being disintegrated almost, which is good, but there are like still traces of that in our society. The other thing is like being the breadwinner isn't necessarily gender specific as well. Like I know a couple of like a couple of parents where the mom is actually like the primary provider, and like if you're the primary provider, like your focus is to like provide for your family, right? So you often like you're so
Yeah.
focused on like working and like even getting to a second job, a third job, just to make sure that your family is like uh, financially stable, that you don't really have time to take care of yourself. And that's I think like what I wanted to touch on, because I think Jason mentioned it, where it's like the man is supposed to be like the breadwinner, and like the woman like takes care of him emotionally. Like why can't the man take care of himself emotionally by himself, right? So that's kind of
Oh,
Yeah, right.
that's kind of the thing, like individuality more than like relying on like gender roles to
yeah.
like
Mhm.
discuss these things is kind of like really big, because you can't always rely on people, others to like say, hey, this is you should like we should talk about this, like what's going on, like are you okay, blah blah blah, right? Like you should be asking those questions to yourself. So that's kind of like a big thing that
That was actually my one of the, because we talk about Instagram question, we pick one. That was
yeah.
the one that resonated with the most.
Hmm.
The idea of self-regulating,
Yes.
which is, I think, is very
Yeah,
important.
yeah.
Yeah. So it doesn't mean that you have to shoulder everything and bag everything up and bottle everything up and not talk to anyone,
Yep.
right? Obviously, you have your peers support, but that whole like gender role, right? And I know a lot of men have this issue, right, where they look for a woman to make them happy, because
Yes.
a woman is the only one they see in their head that has any capacity of empathy to empathize with their problems, right? But
True.
I will tell you, it is not a woman's job to fix you. Like it's
No.
not.
Facts.
She is not your
Facts.
Facts.
mother.
Facts.
She is not
Uh
there to like bring you happiness, right? And I feel like a lot of dudes kind of go into like relationships, right?
Yeah.
Where like if they're having a bad day, they can just shoulder off, right? And like
Yeah.
like oh the like and it's like familiar, because it's like almost sense of like what their mother sometimes
Yeah.
does, like because their
Yes.
mother was like the only sense of empathy when they're probably like at home, right? Especially like a single mother, right? Where like not only did she provide financially, but she like if you're crying at home, she like was there to comfort you, right? Like
Mhm.
Comfort
that's
you
a
and stuff.
right.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
like, and that's how a lot of like and like I touched about this how in my like Instagram, where like how like abuse other people, or like hurt people hurt other people.
Mhm,
So a
mhm.
lot of common themes I've seen with like males like finding partners is that when they when they're girl, so like I'm talking about a heteronormative relationship at
Mhm,
this moment.
mhm.
So when the girl leans on her friends or other guy friends for like emotional support and stuff, they start to get jealous. They start to get very manipulative. They start to pull her away from
Yeah.
her friends, right? Because in their head, they're feel like that's my job. Like that's what
Yeah.
I'm supposed to do, right? I'm supposed to be your
Mhm,
shoulder
mhm.
to cry on and stuff, right? And it's very fuck
Yeah.
boy and it's very like sad
Yeah,
boy.
yeah, yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
just like, dude, like, yes, if she needs to vent, you're obviously there to listen and stuff. But again, like I think it's very toxic to not let her self-regulate, to coddle her and be like, hey, like,
Mhm.
no,
Yes.
I dictate this, I dictate this, I dictate this, right? And like, it's this, and of course it affects both genders, right? Where like they feel like their partner is supposed to provide them happiness, right? And for men
Mhm.
specifically, because like for women, like they have peers to talk to, right? Like if they're having a bad day, sometimes they would cry it out, right? And they would talk about it and like have a time to vent, right? For
Mhm.
men,
Mhm.
chances are they're probably going home playing video games, and like the most interaction with verbal communication, like at least at this age, the verbal communication is just them calling each other pussy for missing a headshot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or like, you know what I mean?
Um,
And so like,
Yeah.
I always tell this, like, man, if you're looking for like healthy relationships, right? Like, train yourself to like not just rely on like your partner, but also your peers,
Yeah.
loved ones, and most importantly yourself as well. It's very important that you learn how to self-regulate.
Mhm.
And I'm kind of touching that, like therapy does help with that, like counseling.
mhm.
Mhm.
But that was like, I'm gonna touch more on this like through the end of the podcast, but literally like the balance of being okay with like talking about it, like talking about yourself, but also learning how to self-regulate, because it's
Yeah.
not someone's responsibility and like to bring you happiness, right?
Mhm.
And like if your only sense of like only familiarity or of empathy is through another woman, like that, I honestly feel like you should be taking time to find, better friends, and not to throw shade at whatever your
Yeah.
circle is,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
like, you know, uh, we all talked about is that, like, a lot of times if we need to talk about something, we're all kind of there to, be there. Like if you need to
Mhm.
cry, if you need to talk to, like because we understand that, because literally like we grew up our whole like youth never having that. Like, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
like a lot of times when we look for partners, we're so in depth to look for someone who's like will like give us that empathy that we don't get, because we're so
Yep.
craving it. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
like it kind of sucks, because like, you kind of just wish that your peers were a little more empathetic. You know what I mean? And like
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, that's
Yeah.
just kind of what I wanted to share on that little subject.
I
Nice.
also wanted to touch kind of on a like we kind of brought it up briefly, but um like talking about the older generation and how they taught us as men to kind of deal with our emotions. I think we touched on it a couple times where our mom was the person that we usually cried to, and she was the person that usually coddled us and made sure that we felt okay, and that's why we look for a partner who similarly is empathetic that way. But I think also it comes down to like both parents, not even, and I'm not even saying just like dads don't like teach this or moms don't teach this. I think it's the responsibility of both. If you do have both parents, granted, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
The dads need to teach the emotional intelligence to the sons as well. I think especially coming from an immigrant family and being Filipino, I think the one thing I wish my dad taught me was it's okay to cry and it's okay to like be vulnerable and it's okay
Yes.
to talk about your feelings, because I think as men, especially Filipino men or immigrant or like being in an immigrant household, because I'm pretty sure you experienced this too, Jason. Like,
Yep.
um, you have to be tough. You have to like not show emotion, and you have to like shoulder everything on your own. And it's like in order, and then like if you're looking for a coping mechanism, it's usually like for my family, it was basketball. Man, my dad would take out all of his stress on basketball, but like the thing is, it's not everything that your dad will do will work for you. And my brother actually brought up a good point when he was messaging me about this. He's like, if my dad didn't show it, then I don't show it. And it's very prevalent, especially when you're a young boy looking up to your father and looking for that kind of like emotional cues on how to
Mhm.
feel, right? Like stop crying. That crying's not okay. Stop doing that, right? Like you'll often hear that, especially when you're younger, like stop crying about that video game like that you're not getting, or stop crying about like getting hurt, like toughen up, right? Like man up. And I'm pretty sure like a lot of us has heard that at one point in our lives. And I think I think how that perspective changed for me, especially later on in life. I think I was in like high school, and uh my mom and dad had just had a huge fight, and they were just going through it. And I think my dad was driving me to like basketball practice one day, and my dad started crying. And I think like him actually like being vulnerable and starting crying in front of me like made me realize that yeah, my dad does go through tough shit. And like the fact that I found it so powerful, like for my dad to cry in front of me, it is a powerful tool in itself. But I also think that like I should have been like, wow, like this is just my dad going through it, and I should be
Mhm.
there for him,
I've never seen
right?
my dad cry ever, in like
Right,
Yeah.
till this
Yeah.
day.
Same.
Like till this
right,
day, and I'm always surprised because like I fucking cry all the time, and I was like,
yeah,
how the fuck you do? And then I start to feel guilty that I'm like, oh,
uh-huh,
like why am I crying? I shouldn't be crying. Like,
yeah,
like this shouldn't bother me, right? But if
Yeah.
it bothers you, it bothers you,
yeah,
right?
The
yeah,
the thing
But
is
like,
like before gender, set gender aside, right? We are
mhm,
all human, and
Yeah.
crying is a human reaction to something that you're distressed about.
Yeah.
Like it's almost it kind of sounds like scary, but like if you're forcing yourself not to cry, you're kind of like dehumanizing yourself, right? Like
Yes. Yes.
why
100%.
would you like dehumanize yourself just to fit into a gender role? It's just like
Mm-hmm.
I think that's something we all have to remember. Like before we are a male or a female or whatever you identify as, we are human, and you need to recognize like what your body is telling you, how it wants to respond in the moment, and just let it respond. Like obviously, like do it in a safe manner. Like if you're gonna like pop off at someone, like obviously restrain yourself because that's not safe.
Yeah.
But do allow yourself to cry. Do allow yourself to get mad. Um, um, do allow yourself to feel all the emotions because it is
Yeah.
a human reaction at the end of the day.
And that's the thing is that like I always say that like a shitty day doesn't justify shitty behavior is because men are so used to not crying or like being like I guess composed or whatever, like probably like a poker face whatever. Sometimes they get
Yeah.
like I think anger is probably the most because that's like the most dominant emotion
Yeah.
I guess you'd say.
Mhm.
But if they don't cry, what does that come out? You know, the form. What is that? It comes out in an ugly
Right.
form. You know what I mean? It's not like
Yeah.
it comes
Yeah.
out with violence. You know what I mean? It comes out them
Mhm.
exploding on someone, right?
Yeah.
And like if you're in a relationship that has struggled with boundaries, right? Of like like hey, I don't appreciate you doing that, you know. And if he's not able to cry, he's probably gonna take it out as like a very like it's come on in a very ugly way, whether
Mhm.
that's like violence, abuse, even emotional abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse.
Yeah.
Like it
Yeah.
comes out in a very ugly form. And so I think it's very important to be like, yo, like bottling up is a bigger problem than you think it is. Like, it has nothing to do with like you proving how alpha you are. Like it's gonna hurt the people around you. Like it's like it's toxic. It's for yourself and for other people.
Speaking on that word toxic, that's a good segue into the next topic. We didn't plan that, I swear. So toxic masculinity, like, and this is one thing that came up a lot in the people that responded to me on Instagram. It's like, how does the media portrayal of men contribute to this like silent epidemic of men not recognizing that the like their mental health, right? So it's just like so for example, I wrote this in my notes and I bolded it, like men in the media, where they're whether it be movies or like music or other stuff, they're usually always seen as like protagonists, right? So they're always like main character, or they always have like the
Yeah.
task, whether it be like save people, save the city, save like a girl or whatever, right?
Mhm.
It's just like you're always the man is always motivated by something where he's just like constantly working towards that goal. So like an example I put down in my notes was like, if, imagine if Iron Man or Captain America was just like a regular person, right? Like what if they're going through
Mhm.
some shit, and like fucking Thanos comes to Earth, right? And they got called to action. Like no
Yeah.
one would watch the movie where Iron Man or Captain America is like, yo, like, hey yo, I'm not feeling myself today. Yo, Hawkeye, can you take this one, bro? Can you take this one? I need a break. Like no one would go watch that
Yeah.
movie,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
Okay, a good thing to actually bring up is that actually like, and the reason why I actually like Iron Man 3 is because they actually talk about Iron Man's anxiety attack, right?
yeah,
And like
yeah,
that movie was glossed over. It's considered a shitty movie, right? And
yeah.
it's mostly because a lot of people hate like how they portray the villain. Like in the comics, he's a lot more sinister. He was just different,
Mhm.
right? But
Mhm.
also, I just thought that movie was so well done because like it literally had Tony Stark battle his anxiety. That was the
Exactly, yeah.
whole fucking movie, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
that movie flopped. That movie
Yeah.
flopped, and I was like that was but if you watched it, it made the whole arc better because his whole like arc was him trying to overcome like like the anxiety that Thanos and the trauma that Thanos
Like
gave
the
him.
the
Yes.
Space.
PTSD and shit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why for me, that's why Endgame hit so hard, right? It wasn't even like I mean like Captain America grabbing the hammer was pretty hype. I was like, oh fuck, like,
Yeah.
Hey,
this type of shit.
spoilers? I'm just kidding, yo. If you haven't watched
Spoilers.
Endgame at this point, it's like
Shake my hand, shake my hand. Yeah,
I want to shake his hand.
But literally, that's why I tell people I like Iron Man 3 is because like it literally showed like the most like broy of bro in a like a hard armor suit but what's the guy inside the suit, right?
He's
And
just
like,
a guy.
to me, he's a guy in a
Yeah,
suit,
yeah.
right? And he was having a normal anxiety attack, right? But like, I guess like, but of course, I understand people are upset with the comics, and people just like didn't see it as a good movie. And I was like, bro, this is actually like a lot better than you think it is. Like,
It is, yeah.
This is
100%.
fucking genius. But I don't know. I guess like not everyone had the same taste, or they're just kind of stuck in this like kind of like, nah, men don't have feelings. He's supposed to
Yeah,
shoot
it's like you have this guy who's a literal superhero. He's rich, you know, he's got a hot wife, you know,
Yo, legit.
and he still has these mental health issues, and at the end of the day, he's just like, even though he has all these things, he's still human, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. I guess in the media, there's a lot of emphasis on, you know, like working hard, you know, chasing money and the clout, chasing women. You know, if you're not rich or you don't have like, if you don't have bitches, like you're seen as weak, or you're seen as like
Yeah.
a level below. It's just like, you know, like regular people are not like that, you know. It's just like I don't know, like you guys are more involved in like the hip hop scene and like the
I actually wanted to dive into that.
yeah,
but
the
I wanted to
culture.
give you guys time to
So
speak,
yeah,
because I've been talking way too much.
well, let's give it to Ronald then.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
What do you-
I think like touching on toxic masculinity, I think I won't touch on hip hop part quite yet, but just toxic masculinity in general is just it's such an epidemic like just present in like men culture, I guess, if you could call it. It's just like it idolizes people being like super hard, because like we read it in the notes, and like I think this is like a good example to talk on, but like 50 Cent, like bro, like this guy got shot like 11 times, like in the front and the back, and no one like was just like, you good, homie? Like, dude, if I was fucking shot like 11 times in the front and the back, like that shit would fuck me up.
Yeah.
They worshipped him
cat.
for a living. Yeah, they worshipped him.
Literally.
Yeah.
And it's like, bruh, like I'd be fucking traumatized. Like I wouldn't be able to leave my fucking house, like if I was shot that many times. And I think it's just like, oh man, but he's such a man for like living through that. He's such a man for like actually doing this shit. And it's just like, and then on the flip side, if you look at the other side of media, you look at Harry Styles and his like feminine expression. I think that's a good topic to touch on too. Like Harry Styles and his feminine expression, like wearing a dress, and like that one bald guy who like wears dresses to work, like on Twitter. If you look at it, I think that's so powerful. I think it challenges the norms, and like low key, like if I was comfortable in a dress, I would wear it, no cap. Like being double cheeked up and everything.
Yes, sir.
Dress.
No, I think like who was that conservative like speaker that responded to, I think it was Candace Owens. In a tweet, she responded to like that picture of Harry Styles in like a dress or whatever, is like, bring back manly men. And I'm like, what the hell do you mean by that? What does it mean to be a manly man?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
does it mean like dressed like a man? Does it mean like have no emotion or creative expression? Because like Harry Styles is literally just expressing his creativity, right? Like clothes are clothes. Like that's the thing. I don't know.
Just because he's wearing a dress doesn't make him any less of a man than anyone else. No cap.
I guess going back, I wanted to touch on like the 50 Cent story, like him getting shot 11 times. Like we don't know that guy, right? So he could have gone through some shit. Like he could have gone through some he may be still going through some PTSD, like or something else, where he was like, you know, going through it, but it just wasn't publicized. So it's just like
how he bounced back. Yeah,
exactly. So it's like you're showing just like the media portrayal of him is like missing perhaps the most important part of the story, like his recovery and the struggles he may be still going through right now. I mean, I don't know that guy, but he's probably a pretty cool guy. But you know, like you know, like the media often doesn't show, especially with celebrities, they don't show really what's going on and that, like behind the scenes. So yeah, I think we need to be mindful of that as well.
I also think, Go ahead. You finish your.
Okay. I also think like it's just prevalent in like a lot of the hobbies that we take up, or a lot of the passions that we're into. Like for instance, dance, right? You take kind of like hip hop, and it's just like, oh, like this is like a masculine dance, this is a feminine dance, this is this and that, right? And it's hard to like break that stigma of just being like, oh, like this is a masculine dance, this is how you should dance as a man, or this is a feminine dance, this is how you should dance, right?
Right.
And I think that what they've been struggling with, especially in the dance community, is like breaking out of those labels and like just labeling it as, oh, this is this person's movement or this is this person's movement. And I think also like dancers are just generally looked down upon, especially if they're technically trained. Like if guys are trained in ballet, jazz, contemporary, like, dude, you look at some of those guys, man, and they're buff as shit.
They're
like,
buff,
they're
bro.
actually
They kick
5
my ass.
times more jacked than me, bro. Like I take a right hook from one of those guys, man. I actually be cold for like 5
GG,
days.
shake my hand.
Shake my hand. Shake my
Right?
hand.
Shake my hand, dude. Right? And it's like you shouldn't look down upon a guy who's into ballet or into contempt.
That's
It doesn't
dope.
make it
That's dope as
like-
shit, yo.
right. Like, and coming back to it, like it doesn't make him any less of a man to be into something that's traditionally feminine, right?
Mhm.
And even then, like, and even if it is traditionally feminine, doesn't mean that he can't have like a feminine hobby or anything like that. But I
Yeah.
think just dance in general is starting to gravitate towards like, I guess you could say like gender neutral kind of classifications, if that makes sense. And it's more going off of the own person's movement and stuff like that. But
that's good
the-
because like if
yeah.
if I could interject, like that's good because it promotes like that person's individuality, I guess. Like
Mhm.
rather than classifying it as, oh, this is like a guy's choreography or like a girl's choreography, like, or this is like a hard choreography, or this is like a, you know, like a sassy whatever, right? It's
Yeah.
like this is this person's
Buzzwords,
movement. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it's like that it's good in that sense as well. But yeah,
Yeah.
continue. Sorry for.
And like in my experience, like taking classes that are obviously out of your comfort zone, whether they do gravitate towards more, I guess, feminine movements, if you were to describe it like that, it makes you a better dancer. Like if you are a struggling hip hop dancer that struggles with like range and like movement and like being a lot more flowy and being and like it's not bad to branch out into those more traditionally feminine styles like ballet and contemporary. Like I took a fucking contemporary class one day just because for the fuck of it, and like I found it very, very hard, but I also found it very insightful. I think that men are like, and it bleeds into the toxic masculinity. Men are just afraid to try new things that are traditionally feminine, and I think that's the kind of the point I was trying to make.
Mhm.
Is that like as men we shouldn't be afraid to try things that are obviously out of our comfort zone. And I think that men who bear down on it, like, oh, like fucking ballet is for pussy men, or contemporary is for men who are just like who are way too in touch with their feelings, like what the fuck is wrong with that then, buddy?
Yeah.
The fuck? Like
That's true.
like
Yeah,
I don't understand. Yeah.
mhm.
Well, go ahead,
YouTube have been stimulating my brain so much because I have like so much to say about this subject, because like this has been like riling me up. So first I'm going to talk about like actually no, let's talk about dance first in general.
Yeah.
Because like I've always had an issue with like b-boys in like my city, and like it's because like they're so broy, you know what I mean? And like, you know, it sucks because like if you guys don't know what b-boy is, like stands for break boy, and for the people who don't understand, it means like breakdancing, but it's called breaking, right? And so like they're very, very much like every single b-boy I've ever met at like that was like my age, so like when I was like 18 or whatever, like when I tried b-boying for a little bit, like every time we would cypher, they would always be like, yo, check out this girl, right? And I'm just like, what is wrong with you, dude? Like, what do you mean? Because like getting
leave it alone,
woman,
bro.
getting, yeah, and it's kind of like a little bit rapey, honestly. Like it's kind of disturbing a little bit, right? And like I'd always be like, you know, like, dude, just fuck off. Like, you know, she's just chilling. You know what I mean? She looks 12, but she like don't fuck with that.
Bro.
It was so fucking it was so like uncomfortable for myself, right? And I think that's why I couldn't really get into b-boying. And it sucks because like breaking is like the first like hip hop dance. And so like they hold that precedent, right?
Mhm.
But like, you know, when I see someone like throw a cock at each other, right? I made this joke where I was like, you know, I swear to God, if I'm in a battle and someone like there was an imaginary like, so if you don't know what cocking is, so basically it's like if you like it's basically a way of submitting dominance to your opponent, right? So you basically just like put your hands like this, and you basically throw like an imaginary like penis at them, right? And like, you know, I'd always joke about this. I was like, you know, if a dude ever threw a cock at me, I would buy a dildo, have it in my backpack, and if he threw a cock at me, I would pull it out and be like, hey, do you feel sexually harassed right now? Like, is this okay?
No, you.
Is this for the culture, right? And like, you know, and that should bother me the wrong way. But like, I know many people disagree. They think that like, bro, that's just part of the culture, right? But like any culture, a culture can be problematic and can be toxic. Like, you know, we talk about toxic Filipino culture. That's a very common culture that we talk about. Like, you know what I mean? And the reason why I want to talk about that is that like I was watching this documentary about hip hop in general, right? But specifically, it explored more about the rapping side, like the MCing side. And there were and like there's this saying how like they wished or people say hip hop was better before it became mainstream, whatever. Like, you know, hip hop should not became mainstream. So a lot of people say that. And before I was like kind of like, what do you mean? Like I thought like it helps, you know, bring hip hop across the world and it helps like, you know, bring it to more people. But then like I kind of get the rationale where so before when like I guess like record labels started taking control and like Western American record labels started taking control of like the rap scene, right? A lot of times like, you know, they had this like a hip hop hippity, right? They had this very like kind of style, and it was very a lot of times they would rap about like, you know, like motivational stuff or just like stuff that you know they're struggling with, just like real stuff. Like they kept it real basically, right?
Real shit,
which is like a common saying of like keeping it real, right? But like that sense of keeping it real ended up changing when like record labels started to take control. So they started pushing this like very violent, very like, you know, very like alpha kind of rapping. So a lot of times like during this era, a lot of rappers would rap about like sex, drugs, like getting shot. Also, I think 50 Cent got shot 9 times. Was it 11?
I don't know. It was 9 or 11. It was a really big number.
Around that time, he got shot a lot of times.
It sucks. Like it honestly sucks. Like you know, like I feel bad for the guy, right? But you know, it was funny because like 50 Cent like on like live like he showed in the documentary like, on live like TV, there was like this like rapper that like showed himself crying. I think he was like an R&B artist, and like you know, 50 Cent called him like a pussy bitch n-word. You know what I mean? Like this is what a pussy bitch n-word looks like, right? And he kind of like showed his video and started making fun of me. He's like like I'll find a clip, whatever. But you know what I mean? Like when you guys talk about like, you know, they didn't show what 50 Cent went through. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he went through some shit, right? But because like his idea of like what's considered like a true hip hop artist, you know, and like the thing is like people kind of sees that I'm criticizing cultures. Like no, I don't think it's like black people's fault. Like I think that documentary is also kind of biased. They kind of address that like a lot of times like these record labels were owned by a lot of white men in suits. So what they would do is that like they would kind of push the narrative that like, because you know in action movies there's always guns, get woman, you know, violence,
really,
right?
like literally like fuck bitches get money.
Exactly. Basically, right. And so like, you know, the reason why there's that saying like, you know, hip hop shouldn't be on mainstream is because like it was such a pure like expression of art and it got tainted, and like there was a lot of like male toxicity in hip hop culture, right? And it wasn't initially like that, right? But you know how people see it as they see like, oh, it's like black men are just like, you know, like toxic men, right? Like, you know, fuck black men, right? But no, like, you know, and it's not just like to what is it, to justify their behavior, right? That's what I'm saying, is that like sometimes they need resources to help them understand like what they're doing is not okay, because like a lot of young MCs, like a lot of young cats, like they would always look at these like they would look at the heroes, right? The people who are on top, right? And they know they have to rap about like getting shot, you know, going through this, taking this much drugs, right? And like, you know, in the the documentary, like the guy asked like, have you ever been through any of this? Like, no, like I've never been through any of this, right? But they constantly have to rap about these kind of topics because that's what will keep them. That will help them grow their platform. That's what help them get the bag. Because if they rap about their feelings, like no one's gonna buy that shit. Like no one's gonna like really help it, right? And so it's like it's ingrained in like capitalism too, like, you know. And it kind of sucks because like, you know, fucking like sometimes like you don't want to be talk about like traumatic experiences, right? Sometimes you want to talk about like things that do bring you happiness, right? So like that was just like something that really kind of like resonated with me when I like kind of watched it. But like they didn't really address it. Like sometimes it's like literally like I use the word keyword society, but it's like the system in place that promotes men to really push this narrative that they need to be like tough, right? And like like it I think it's horrible. And and just with dance, like I've always, you know, I think a lot of b-boys, if they were watching, they'd be like, fuck Jason, you know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Fuck this guy.
I do not care. I think you're emotionally unintelligent. Like I will say that to your face. Like I think like a lot of you are misogynistic, right? There's a reason why there's not a lot of B-girls in your scene, right? Like if I was a B-girl, I would not want to break. Like if I was passionate about breaking, I'd just rather not, because I know I'm gonna get harassed. I know I'm gonna feel like shit, and I know I'm gonna be like gaslit as fuck, right? And I know that happens in like esports, like in the Valorant like game chat. Like I know that's
Oh,
a
it's very prevalent.
Yeah,
You know
it's
what I mean?
prevalent in esports.
In esports, I know it's prevalent breaking and like even like the choreo and studio scene. Like it's prevalent everywhere, right?
Mhm.
And like, but like, I feel like when I was trying to like get into like breaking stuff, that was like the most prevalent. It was so much like locker room talk, and I was fucking annoyed because I was like, dude, like, and like you know, a lot of times you like tell them like, oh, imagine if you had a daughter, right? But they don't have a daughter, so they can't imagine it, right? They're just like
Yeah.
whatever, just like. But like you know, when eventually when they get older and they finally have kids and stuff like that, they're like, oh fuck, I knew exactly what this dude is trying to do to my daughter, right? And they're concerned. But at the age, you don't really know, right?
Yeah,
And like you know, kind of touching on the subject, there's a reason why there's a lot of like you know like a lot of sexual abuse that's happening in like some of these scenes, right? In like the Valorant scene, the esports scene, I know happening in the Super Smash Bros. Scene as well, and like the breaking scene is like a lot's going on right now. And I know and the
choreography scene,
choreography, right? It's because literally like it promotes like dominating a woman, right? It just promotes that. I'm like, dude, that's so fucking problematic. Like, you don't understand, and like it's crazy because people don't really like, oh, talks about masculinity, like that's just a men's problem, right? But like, dude, that affects everyone, right?
It does.
And
everyone.
And I'm not saying, and I tried to have discussion before, like I'm not saying you should, you know, empathize with abusers. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that like, you know, you should encourage them to go to therapy, like because it's not your job to micromanage someone's growth, right? Like it's not like because everyone goes through emotional milestones differently. But like, if you kind of just leave people unchecked, like they're gonna do it again, right? And like, you know, when an abuser finally gets out, right, people are like cancel him, like don't talk to him, whatever. Like, you know, it dismiss him, right? But it's like if this man doesn't know what he did wrong, he's gonna do it again. You know what I mean? But this time, because like I'm assuming like you know when a famous person gets like deplatformed, like you know they're off the platform, right? They're canceled, right? But they learned their lesson. They're gonna do it again, but they're doing it in silence, right?
They're gonna do it. It's gonna be 100 times worse.
Yeah, because they're not gonna do it and they're gonna do it in silence, and no one's gonna catch them because they're not famous anymore, right? The real like issue of doing it is that like you really want to make sure that they understand. So therapy, counseling, making sure that they understand like what they did is wrong, accountability, and that's what accountability looks like, right? It's not just like taking away their shit, right? Like, well, of course, you know, you want to remove them from the platform because they're in position of power and they took someone's power away, right? But you know. I always talk about this. Like men's mental health really does affect because of like you know male privilege and the male like system in place. It really does affect how other people, right? And like yes, it is like a men's problem. You know what I mean? But like it affects everyone, right?
It does.
But yeah, that's like my take on toxic masculinity. Like I think it's a lot more problematic than people think it is, and like I find it in so many communities, and like it annoys the shit out of me because like when I see a bro, I'm just like, dude, I know exactly who you are. Like, don't even like, you know, you are actually a sheep. You are the beta male.
Sheep.
I'm the beta male.
You are the sheep.
You know what I mean? Like, you know, like I get so tilted, right? And like, you know, like, and it's so weird because like when I was working at like, a Cineplex, there's always be dudes like trying to have locker room talk to me, talk about like how they're sleeping with this girl, and I'm like, I don't know you. I do not know you. Like, you know, and like every time I try to ask like dudes, like some of my friends, like, are they okay? Like, you know, do you need to talk about it? Sometimes they deflect it and they start talking about like locker room talk, like, you know, oh, I fucked this girl, right? I'm like, no, you're trying to say something that you think I want to hear. I know you don't want to talk about sex. You want to talk about your feelings, but you feel like that I will make fun of you. But no, I'm not gonna make fun of you. You know what I mean?
True.
And so like, I feel like people like I see this with men all the time that they deflect it. They talk about something they think I want to hear. Like I don't give a fuck who you slept with. I don't give a fuck about like, you know, like what you're doing, what drugs you're doing, you know, like what sports you're doing. I don't give a fuck. If you need to talk about something, then talk to me about it. Cause like obviously you're holding it in and then you're trying to hide it, showing that you're macho man, and it's not working. And that little toxic masculinity can really affect how you view women and how you affect other people around you.
Yeah, I think it's also like, I guess it's also instinct. Like as males, like we want to protect our shit, right? So it's like you like, I guess if you don't want to let anyone in, like to your let's say like your circle or your like what you're really feeling, it's like you show them like, oh, I'm this big guy, like with
big husky dude.
I'm alpha bro. I'm sleeping with this girl. Yeah. Like he wants you to, I guess, like respect him and be scared of him, that you don't like ask him like, oh hey man, like you good, homie?
It's like they're establishing like
establishing
I'm alpha, I'm
dominance.
strong. Like I need you to respect me before I can even talk about my feelings.
Yeah.
Or even talk about like anything remotely emotional. Because it's like yeah, I fucked like 42 girls, but like deep inside, like I have commitment issues. It's like, bruh, like just tell me about your commitment issues at
Yeah,
that point, man.
yeah.
Like,
And we've seen a lot of memes, right?
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No,
finish,
Go
finish.
ahead, Jason. I think
I'm literally gonna say this one comment. Like, there's that one meme where like there's a dude who's like he's crying and there's like two booties like beside him, and he's like, you know, when you have all these bitches but you don't have the one, right?
Oh, my
And we
god.
joke about we joke about it, right?
Yeah.
But it's a
Yeah.
real thing. Like
It's a
it's a
real
real thing, dude.
you're hurt, and like, you know, it's like humor because, you know, like I know humor is a great way to cope with like trauma and stuff, like, or like, you know, just like stuff, right? But like we don't really talk about like the underlying message. Like, dude, he's hurt, but he's trying to replace his sadness with like sexual things, and it's not.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we're like, oh, all men are dogs. All they want is sex. Like, you know what? We're trained
Yeah.
to think that way, but really, I just want someone to listen, so that I can listen,
Yeah.
and like, you know, I can talk to. But
that's
anyway, go on.
Yeah,
Oh,
I guess
Go
to. Well, I wanted to like finish the section with my point. So, Ronald, if you need to say anything.
Okay. I just want to touch on one topic, like for toxic masculinity. And I think this is also like a big point that we need to, like, we kind of need to say. Like when we're talking about like, I was watching a documentary like on YouTube about this one kid who was like under 18, and he ended up sleeping with a director that was like way older than him, like 30 whatever, and she was like super hot. But like people in the comments, like a lot of people in like the social media comments were like, oh, that kid should be lucky, he's sleeping with an older girl, or oh, that kid should be super thankful. And like we see like every day like a lot of like men, or like not even men, we can't even call them men, a lot of young boys like getting taken advantage of by older women who are like decades older than him.
True.
But they're super hot, so people are like, oh, yo, like if I was at that age, I'd be so lucky. But like the reality is, nah, bro, you wouldn't be okay, because that shit fucks you up
That
emotionally,
fucks you
mentally. Like it like affects your growth.
that
And
was
so like I
emotional
think
abuse and sexual abuse. Yeah.
exactly, and it's a big example of like society's toxic masculinity. Like we shouldn't, like men especially shouldn't be like, yo, like that little boy is so lucky. Like if I was in that position, it's like, no, like you wouldn't even want to be in that position in the first place, and you shouldn't be praising this boy for like being taken advantage of, right? And I just think that like that's one big stigma, and it is still a stigma that we need to break, because it's like, bro, that's so fucking toxic. Like it's unbelievable to me.
Yeah, I can imagine that director was probably manipulating that kid. You know, saying like,
100%.
this, like you want
Exactly.
this, right? And he's probably like, no, I don't want this, right? And everyone around him was like, oh, you're lucky, because they assume he wanted it too. But like, dude,
And then he feels bad for like feeling wrong about it, and then like he ends up like, you know.
And he doesn't want to admit he got raped. That's another thing,
Exactly.
right? Because like that's also another thing. Like, and sorry, I know we're trying to finish off the topic and stuff, but like, you know, being like penetrated is like the ultimate sign of like oh, like you're like you know, and I know even in sports, like, oh, I'm gonna fucking rape you, right? Like, you know, as that's how they're gonna beat you in the game, whatever, right? That's a very like way of asserting something like, oh, you're weak, and so like, you know what I mean? Like that probably hurt the kid, right? And like no one's empathizing them, right? And like, you know, if he ended up committing suicide, like that's like you know, people are like, oh no, how can we have prevented this? Like, well, dumbass, like empathize with the kid.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
anyways, to finish off this this topic, I guess I can go back to one of the points that I made earlier. It's just like, you know, toxic masculinity and stuff like that. Like we've talked about, you know, being in touch with their feelings rather than like being tough and stuff. And I guess it's just to remember that, you know, before you are a man, before you're a male or female or whatever you identify with, you're human. So like. So like, don't neglect your feelings. Like, don't neglect what your body is telling you to respond to in certain different situations. You know, I feel like that's something. I guess all three of us have had to like learn. I guess unlearn that behavior as we've grown up, and I guess we're still learning in different ways.
I found an interesting one. This one's a shorter one. This is not the ones that I chose, but one of my homegirls was saying that male friendship isn't based on understanding and supporting each other, like mostly pertaining to like kind of, I guess more like the b-boy, like Jason was touching like the b-boy culture and stuff like that.
If
This
you're
is like off
good,
record too.
if you're good, they love you. But if like they don't really care if you're like emotionally intelligent or you're able
Yeah,
to.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
like one of the responses I got from one of my friends was kind of related to that. It's just like he had to learn which like one of his like friends or
Mhm.
like his friends were there for like actual support, like they support each other. It's like a healthy friendship, or who's there for like convenience, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
that's
Mhm.
totally related because like some people are just there,
Yeah.
because they want something out of you, whether that
Mhm.
be like influence or money
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
or I don't know, whatever, right? It's just so, like those aren't your real friends. Like they won't be
Mhm.
there for you when you're like down bad
Mhm.
Yeah.
or
Yeah,
like
yeah.
going through it, right? So it's just like he had to learn like who who that was, and that takes a lot of reflection and home truths that are hard
Mhm.
to um to recognize. So such I guess like if you're able to do that, that like shows a lot of maturity and
Yeah,
like yeah, a lot of growth.
yeah.
Hmm. Something I wanted to bring up is that I had two answers that are very short. They're very short, but they have
Okay.
the same message.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
that I want to ask like why are men so scared of showing their feelings? It
Mhm.
was actually two b boys that answered this question, and their
Oh,
answers are
Yeah,
very
interesting.
cynical,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
The first one was because nobody asks, and two, plain and simple, no one cares, obviously, right? So like it
Yeah.
obviously comes from a very cynical. Now, I know one of them personally, right? And so I kind
Mhm.
of asked around, like like I had a conversation with other people, right? And like they
Mhm.
kind of gave a little backstory, like yeah, like I know this person was like always bullied, like always made because he had a studying problem, always made fun of him,
Yeah.
and like he was had a hard time like talking, right? And he's a dude that will like if you make plans he will flake, you know what I mean?
Mhm,
And
mhm.
I think another thing to talk about with like the whole like flaking thing is that like because myself and Ronald have a friend from the studio that we work at
Yeah,
who's known for
yeah.
flaking. You know what I'm talking about, right? Right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And like we always would make fun of him, but like when you
Uh,
really think about it, like when we talk to him, it's because like he wants to participate because he's always, but he's so anxious that like and he's so scared to tell like hey, like I'm just not feeling good,
yeah,
that he
yeah.
just rather ghost, right?
He'll just ghost.
Just
Mm.
Yeah.
ghost, right? And that b boy does that a lot, and I kind of feel bad because like kind of hearing a little more of his backstory, right? He like he resents a lot of people in like the dance community too as well, like myself, and he
Mhm.
like he's known for flaking, right? And like we always make fun of him, right? But I never realized like he's probably going through something right now,
Yeah, right?
but and he's a black male, right? And like I feel like I was like okay, maybe we should just empathize with him because like if he can't make it, like it's totally fine because like I know
Yeah.
sometimes like when in the homies like one of us can't make it, like and like we used to always like make fun of him
Mhm,
for
mhm.
flaking, and then we
Yeah,
had to
yeah.
talk and like they end up telling like, oh, like I'm going through this with my girlfriend, right? And then like all of us kind of felt bad because like oh we just didn't know,
Yeah,
we just didn't
yeah.
know, right? And like you never
Yeah.
know
Yeah,
Yeah.
what
you never
people are
know.
You
going
never
through,
know.
right? And so like and obviously like I get both sides where some people like it's so much easier to plan things, right? Like it makes things so much easier if you just communicate like 100%. But I also get the story like the side of like it some people just like can't. But how
Mhm.
I always solve that is like through boundaries. I'm like, hey, like if you if the day of the plan, like if you were gonna hang out and you can't show up, just say like, "Hey, I'm not feeling good," and we will understand.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Because yeah, like I think and you know how you have to over explain yourself, right? But one thing as a man that you could do is give him that space to be like, "Hey, like because we talk about like no one asks or like it's not okay, right?
Mhm,
But
mhm, mhm, mhm.
in that boundary, like, hey, if you're not okay to hang out today, just let us
Just
know.
yeah.
Right? Always invited. We care about you. We want you to be included, but we also understand that sometimes your social battery is just not there yet, and it's
Mhm,
okay, right?
mhm.
And like I think Vince mentioned this like early in the episode about like how you were trying to you wait for someone to ask you if you're okay, right?
Hmm.
And like
Yeah.
that's definitely a thing, right? But I definitely think one thing that could counteract that, right, is that when your peer relationship set those boundaries of like, hey, like if something's going on, just let us know, right?
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
can't do this,
Yeah.
let us know. We won't hold it against you. And then, of course, as a mature, intelligent, emotional person, you won't hold them against them. You would be like,
Mhm.
okay,
100%.
they're going through it, right? So, yeah, like another thing I think that really helps with like the whole like why men don't talk about their feelings is that sometimes we do need to create that space so that they can talk about it, right? And it
Mhm.
doesn't have to be like over explaining. Like if they don't feel like over explaining or loading that day, that's totally fine.
Yeah.
It could be another day. But as a friend, as a man, right? And a man to man, right? One of the things you can do
Mhm.
is leave that space like, hey, if you're not okay, like it's totally fine. I
Yeah.
won't hold it against you. Like,
Yeah.
dude, like I love you and I care about you and I want you to be included. And I understand like you can't always participate because like something's going on, but we're
course.
still gonna invite you, you know what I mean? And constantly following up on them, right? And it does take work, but like that's what friendships like
Mhm.
require sometimes, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
coming back to the like answer, like I think it's also like kind of put that word toxic in front of it. Toxic male friendships aren't based on understanding and caring about each other because even if you think of like like a guy having a friendship with a girl, it's always looked upon as like in toxic sense. It's always looked as like the guy's just trying to hook up with the girl at the end of the
Yeah,
day.
he's trying to get his dick wet. That's
Yeah,
what
yeah, yeah,
they
right?
always say. Yeah.
And then if it's like a guy or like if it's like a guy being friends with a guy, it's like you just looked it down upon to even talk about emotions. You're just like, yeah, bro, like let's go fucking fishing or fucking ride our dirt bikes or some shit like that, right? Like
Fishing.
it's never like it's never like, yeah, man, I have like deep talks with this guy at 12 a.m. and like we fucking eat McDonald's and fucking cry
That
together.
sounds lit,
Like,
bro. Wow.
Right? It's fucking like those type of like healthy emotional individuals who are like emotionally developed and like know what boundaries to set and like just know what a good friendship is will like have those will be the best times.
Mhm.
And those will
Mhm.
always like be the things that people remember in a friendship. So
Sure.
like I feel like a lot of toxic like male relationships are either used to like take advantage of one another or to just like or just purely based on like pleasure, right? Whether it
Mhm.
be like sex or whether it be like using your homie for like whatever he has, like he has a sick ass ATV or some shit like that, or like he has a sick like fucking golf set or some shit like that, right? um it like healthy relationships are based on, man, this guy's dope because he listens to me and he's also good at Smash. You know what I mean?
Facts.
Right? It's
Mhm.
or it's like, oh, this homie, like I like this homie because he's able to tell me when I'm wrong and he
He
also
also
has a
happens to be good at
big
something.
penis.
Uh-huh.
No, I'm just playing. Like the most healthy friendships are based on like are based on open communication.
Yeah.
Mhm.
100%.
100%.
Yeah. And I think like, you know, the constantly evaluating on what they can do instead of what they can offer. Cause like that also affects like male or
Mhm.
men like romantic relationships. Like I'm talking about heteronormative, is that because like
Yeah.
you know, none of their guy peers are empathetic. So they honestly they look for a woman to be empathetic, right? But it's not their
Yeah.
job to take in their load, right?
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
toxic masculinity really affects more than you think it is, right?
Yeah.
And so like yeah, like it I feel be there for your friends because, and I always will say it, it's not a woman's job to fix the man's problem, right?
Mhm.
That work is divided. It's community, right? It's not
Mhm.
one person's job. It's not one person's responsibility. Of course, you know
Yep.
you need to be able to self regulate, but like you know, it sucks because a lot of men like constantly look for a woman to fill that void of like they need someone to talk to. But honestly,
Yeah.
like then the woman get mad because like you know it's like it's what a healthy smart woman would set boundaries be like, hey, like I'm not trying to fix you, that's not my job, right? And she's in her
Mhm.
right, she's in her right.
Mhm.
Of course she will listen and you know like empathize with you when you need to vent, right? But it's not her job to fix you, right? And so I feel like you know if you're trying to find a woman to like fix your like or like you know to solve make you happy basically,
Yeah.
then sometimes it might be like you need to talk to your friends like, hey, I need someone to talk to, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, no one thinks about that. No one really thinks about that. But literally, like, you know, if you don't have empathetic people around you, like, it really does damage you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
100%.
and just building off that point though, and this is maybe like playing devil's advocate almost, but not really because it is true because since like this response came in very good take on on mental health. So one of the things that he says was, you know, like mental health is very complicated and not all of us like have the capacity or
Mhm.
training
Yeah.
to deal with the vast complexity that is mental health issues, right? So it's just like
Mhm.
Yep.
if you go to a friend and they say like, yo, I really can't like help with this, like I don't
Boundaries.
I either don't have the time, don't have the capacity, or don't have like I don't think I can help you in the way that you need to be helped. And in that way, like, you know, sometimes in that sense you might need like professional help, like going to a therapist or going to a counseling.
Mhm.
Like not all of your friends are going to be trained to handle your mental health issues, and
Yes.
that's totally
Yeah.
fine,
Yeah.
right? It's just like, we haven't gone through the same experiences as you, or we don't really know how to help you in the way that you need to be helped. So going to a professional is like the way to go, as he says here, which I agree, because like, people have their boundaries as well. Like people have their capacity as well to take to like help you solve your problems as well. And if they don't have like the capacity right now or anytime soon, that's totally okay too, right?
And
So
they're also going through something too,
yeah,
right?
if they're also going through something, like they might not be able to provide like the um best advice or their best take on stuff, so you might not get what you wanted out of it, and then you're like, oh, why doesn't this person want to help me? Well, they might also be going through some stuff.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people will like attack their friends like, "Oh, you're not there for me," right? It's like no, it's because
Exactly.
like they
Yeah.
they also have things, right? And I think like you need to accept that, right? Another thing, and just to kind of like finish my statement is that like, so this is something I told Lawrence, right, where I was kind of like almost like challenging him on why therapy
Yeah.
is, and like it wasn't he saying therapy is bad, but he was kind of saying like, it's good because I have my homies to talk to, right? But I was like, we're here to listen and to commentate. That's all we're
Yeah.
here for.
Yeah.
But a therapist is there to really help you cope, help you learn how to self-regulate, help you like make sense of your thoughts. But we can't do that for you. We can give you advice, but we
Yeah.
can't really solve anything, right? And like, again, like and I always tell this to like and even like my girlfriend, right? And like just like friends around, is that sometimes my girlfriend will be going through something, right? And like I'm going through something, and I tell her like I don't have the capacity to help you, right? And
Yep.
like, it sucks, right? But then she also talks to like her counselor as well to like help her, like, right? And like it also, because like as a man, sometimes a man's like always like, oh no, like I'm letting her down, you know what I mean? It's like it's my
Yeah.
responsibility to be there, her shoulder cry any time of the day, 24/7, right? But it's like that's impossible, and that's too much
Yeah.
for one person, right?
Yeah.
Just like I don't expect my girl to like, fix me every time I'm sad. Like I shouldn't put the expectation that, like, you know what I mean? And that's how you get really clingy people. That's how you make people who are very
Yep.
codependent on each
Yes,
other,
sir.
and like who are very like together
Yeah.
all the time, right? It's because you don't set those boundaries, right? And that can happen with friendships too, right? So if
Yeah.
like your friend
100%.
is like going through something, right? Like, hey, I can't talk today, but I could talk, this day or next week, you know what I mean? And setting those boundaries, right? And like I know we're gonna talk about boundaries like in another episode, but just as a
Yeah.
precursor,
Relationships and
like
stuff. Yeah.
boundaries are important. Holy fuck. I always say that till I die, because like, you know, um you need to respect yourself, and you need to be able to respect others, and you're able to
Yep.
respect others people's boundaries, right? And one of the things that you can apply boundaries is that, like, hey, I don't have the capacity to help you right now, right? And as a friend, they might get mad at you, right? But they have to understand, right? And maybe that's something you will talk later. But like, if you clearly don't have the capacity to help someone, you just don't, because then you might hurt them more. You might say something that might not help them, not serve
Yep.
them, right? You know what I mean? So like, yeah, 100%. Like, boundaries are not important. It's not your job to solve all your homies' problems. Again, the work is divided, right? Between themselves and like the peers around them, right? It's not just one person.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
All right. I think we've been talking for. Well, okay, so let's come clean to the viewers.
Okay. Okay.
So we've been talking for 2 hours and 43 minutes. So we've decided
No. It's 3 hours, bro.
It's almost 3 hours. All right. So we've decided to split this episode into two episodes. So the first, the one you're hearing right now, is the one about why are men, reluctant to talk about their feelings and toxic masculinity and all that. So in the second episode, which we also recorded. Jason's gonna have fun editing this, but in the second episode we'll be talking about more like our experiences with our own mental health, and like dealing with stress, taking breaks, coping mechanisms, and positive self-image. So kind of like a lighter theme, but yeah. So I just want to say, like, thanks for listening to our very first episode of the You Good Homie podcast with my boys Ronald and Jason. It's been a blast, gentlemen. Hope you guys enjoyed listening to our takes. Obviously, like the usual YouTube thing, like
Like,
subscribe.
comment, subscribe,
Or
Sign
really,
up
if-
notification.
notification bell.
Patreon if you want feed pics.
no, if you do guys have any thoughts, like leave them in the comments. Like
Feedback is always appreciated.
feedback is always
definitely.
appreciated, and also if you want to add to the discussion, feel
Mhm.
free. But yeah, so hopefully you can catch our second episode, which is I don't know when it's coming out, but it should be right after this one.
Exactly.
All right, so I'm gonna do that outro for that right after I finish this one. So all right, see you guys in the
Yeah.
next episode. All right, have a good one. Have a good afternoon, evening, day, or whatever the fuck
I
time
love
it is
you.
wherever you are.
Get some sleep, eat well, take care of yourself, and take care of each other.
Yes, sir.
I love you.
Yeah.
All right.